Hi guys, today in this tutorial we're going to learn how to handle multiple numbers of exceptions inside a single cache block. So guys, when you write your code and you know that there is a possibility that your application may gonna throw you some exception in the runtime, how you handle that kind of scenario. So the first thing you're gonna do, you're gonna wrap all your risky code inside a try block followed by multiple numbers of cache block to handle multiple numbers of exceptions. Pretty straightforward, isn't it? So if your application is throwing you 5 different exceptions, you need to write 5 different cache blocks to handle those exceptions. Nice, but you know what? We developers are lazy. We always look for a shortcut. So is there any shortcut so that we can put all these exceptions inside a single cache block so that we don't need to write an individual cache block to handle an individual exception? Yes, from Java 1.7 version you actually can write multiple numbers of exceptions inside a single cache block. So I can say it's a new feature of Java. So you want to know how it works? Watch the tutorial till end to get your answer.
So now let's do it practically, okay? So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to create multiple exceptions and I need to handle that inside a single cache block. Well, that's interesting. Okay, so first of all, I do have a class over here called class taste and I do have a main method, isn't it? So to create some exceptions, I need to write some code, right? So let's say I have two variables. First one is number 1 and I'm assigning it to 10 and the second one is number 2 and I'm assigning it to 5. Oops. Okay, so now I do have a simple sysout over here. Oops. Sysout. And what I'm doing over here, I'm dividing number 1 by number 2. And this is really simple. If I run this program, I'm getting 2 as an output, isn't it? But what if I change this to 0? So it is going to give me arithmetic exception, right? So if I run it over here, I'll do a OK. Well, there we go. Java.lang.arithmetic exception divided by 0. Well, if I need to handle this type of exception, what I need to do, very simple. I need to put everything inside a try block, all this code inside a try block, and followed by a cache, as you guys know. So what I need to do over here, I need to create my cache block, and I need to put arithmetic exceptions over here, and I'll write E. And I'll just print this E. So I'll write sysout and E. There we go. So now if you're going to run it, there is nothing special. You are just going to get that exception. Java.lang.arithmetic exception divided by 0. Well, alright. Okay, now let's create another exception, right? And let's try to see how we're going to handle that inside a same cache block, okay? So now let me create another exception called array index out of bound exception. So to do that, first I need to declare an array. So I'll say int karray equal to new int of, and I'll write 5 over here. So I just declared an array of size 5. Okay, so now let's try to put some value inside it. Well, I'm not going to initialize it one by one. Instead, I'm going to use a for loop, and this is going to do the trick for me. So I'm going to use a for loop over here, and let's say int I equal to 0, then I less than equal to 5, and I'll write I plus plus. And what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to initialize this k of I equal to I. Okay, so now if you see this bunch of code, there is a problem inside it. I know you can guess that, but let me quickly cover what is that. So now if you see over here, I have initialized the array with size 5, isn't it? So as you know, array index starts from 0, and in my case, I should initialize it till the 4th index, right? 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4. 0 to 4, which is 5 index. But if you see over here, I do have a less than and equal sign over here, which is going to technically initialize my 6th index of my array, which is never there. Okay, so in this case, you are going to get an exception which is called array index out of bound exception, right? So let me quickly run this code and let me show you guys. Okay, so let me change this to 5. Now there is no problem with this piece of code, but there is a problem with this piece of code. Okay, so let me check that out. So I'll click OK, and there we go. Array index out of bound exception. Okay, so first is printing 2, then it's giving me array index out of bound exception because of this piece of code. Okay, so to handle this type of exception, what we used to do before Java 1.7 version, we need to write another catch block, isn't it? Like this, and we have to put inside array index out of bound exception E, and again we need to print this out and E. Okay, so we have to follow this approach in order to handle multiple exceptions, isn't it? But Java 1.7 gives us a very cool trick that we can apply while we are writing code. So from Java 1.7 version, we really do not have to write multiple catch blocks to handle different types of exceptions. Instead, we can handle all these exceptions inside a single catch block. Okay, so let me show you guys how to do that. So first of all, let me delete this piece of code and let me handle the array index out of bound exception over here inside this catch block. So for that, what I need to do, I need to put this operator over here, then I need to write array index out of bound exception and E. Okay, so this is really simple, isn't it? Put your first exception, then put this operator, and then put your second exception, then give it a variable, and then do whatever you want to do over here. But in my case, I'm just printing it right over here. Okay, so now what's gonna be happening, right? I do not have any arithmetic exception problem over here, but this piece of code is going to give me array index out of bound exception. This catch block is going to execute, and this E contains array index out of bound exception object, right? So that's what is going to come in the console, right? So let me run it once again. So let me click run, and there you go. So 2 because of this sysout, number 1 divided by number 2, and then this exception java.lang.array index out of bound exception because of the 5th index. That's really cool, isn't it? Okay, now if I'll fix this piece of code, and if I remove this equal sign over here, now this program is completely fine. And if I run this, there is no problem. I'm getting 2, right? So what if I'll change this to 0 right now? Okay, and if I save this program and if I run it again, there you go. I'm getting arithmetic exception, and this catch block is handling that. Okay, so one more thing, you can handle as many exceptions as you want, right? Suppose I want to handle another exception with this catch block. So let's say this try block contains some more amount of code, and I suspect that those code is going to give me null pointer exception. Okay, so in order to handle that, what I can do, I don't need to write another catch block, right? I can actually handle this inside this same catch block. Okay, so how can I do that? I just need to put this over here, then null pointer exception, and ending with my variable E. Okay, so if there is another chance of getting null pointer exception, then E is going to return to me the null pointer exception object. All right, and that's it. So if I do have a null pointer exception problem in my program, then no problem, this catch block is there. It's going to handle it. So in my case, this catch block is handling arithmetic exception, array index out of bound exception, and null pointer exception in the same time. So this is really cool. I like it. So in this way, you can handle multiple exceptions inside a same catch block. But do remember, this is only possible in Java 1.7 version or later versions of Java.
So that's it. If you really like this tutorial, then subscribe to my channel for more updates. And if you're watching this in Facebook, you can like to my page for further updates and posts. So thank you very much for watching. Have a nice day and happy coding.